lesson of all.
The exercise, you're having to shoot at an adult. Are you prepared to have to kill one of your students?
Guns in the Classroom, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
I'll see you in the morning.
Two of the 4 Americans kidnapped in Mexico have reportedly been found dead.
The 2 survivors have since been repatriated back to the United States.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection.
It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this.
We will stand strong. We will hold the line. We won't back down. And I can promise you this, you ain't seen nothing yet.
He's doing the right thing by focusing on being governor, getting some legislative accomplishments that he can tout when he goes on the campaign trail whenever he does get into the race.
Welcome to Red and Blue. I'm Weijia Jiang in Washington. Thank you for joining us. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are criticizing Fox News host Tucker Carlson for presenting a false narrative of January 6th. Last night, the conservative commentator aired portions of thousands of hours of footage from the Capitol riot given to him by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Some members of Congress are saying he cherry-picked the video to fit his narrative of what happened. And the State Department says that 2 of the 4 Americans kidnapped in Mexico last week have died. The other 2 victims have returned to the U.S. For more, Nancy Cordes and Nicole Killian join us now. Nancy is CBS News' chief White House correspondent, and Nicole is a CBS News congressional correspondent. Nancy, I want to start with you because you asked the press secretary today in the White House about whether the administration was doing enough to deal with these cartels. Let's take a listen.
Does the situation in Mexico indicate that the U.S. needs to be doing more to tackle Mexican organized crime? And if so, what?
This administration from day one has made sure, as it relates to the safety. I know some folks have asked if we are concerned about these individuals actually crossing the border and coming into the U.S. So, DHS screens and vets every individual encountered at the border. The president has secured record levels of funding for border security and management, including 23,000 border officials.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre there, Nancy, talking about what they have already done. But you asked what if they should be doing more, which I didn't really hear an answer to. So what can they do at this point? 1, to deal with this situation, to hold somebody accountable, and 2, to try to prevent it from happening again.
Right, and I wasn't the only reporter, Weijia, to ask a version of that question today in the White House briefing. And the press secretary, as you heard there, wasn't really willing to go out any further than the White House has already gone. She says that the president is being briefed, that he's very concerned about this situation just across the border, that he's being regularly informed, and that White House officials are kept in the loop as well, that U.S. officials have been in touch with Mexican officials and with these individuals as they're being brought back across the border. But beyond that, she really wasn't willing to say or able to say what more the U.S. can do to address the cartels on the other side of the border, obviously the drugs that make it over here to this side of the border, or the violence. She said that any Americans who are considering going to Mexico need to be aware of the various State Department warnings and should go to the State Department website. But she didn't say that people shouldn't go to Mexico, just that they need to be aware of the risks. One argument that she made is that this administration has put forth various proposals when it comes to immigration, but that they haven't gotten a lot of cooperation from Republicans yet. So the argument that we heard her make several times there in the briefing room, Weijia, was that if Republicans want to see a tougher stance on the border, they should start working with Democrats. Obviously, Republicans have their own proposals that they've put forward, and often there's quite a bit of daylight between the two sides.
Nancy, we're also waiting to see the Republican proposal for the budget. Of course, it is budget week over there at the White House. The president preparing to unveil his on Thursday. And one thing he addressed ahead of that release is Medicare. He has long claimed that Republicans are trying to slash the program. And today he came out with an idea of his own to make sure it remains solvent for a bit longer. What can you tell us about that?
Right. He basically unveiled a big piece of his budget plan that he will lay out in full on Thursday. This having to do with Medicare. And you're so right, Weijia. He's really been trying to draw this bright line between his bid to save Medicare, as he puts it, and some Republicans, and I'll emphasize some because it's far from all, who think that Medicare should be cut or in other ways changed in order to keep it solvent. The president said today that what he wants to do is expand the number of drugs that Medicare can negotiate prices over. You know, you remember that the Biden administration cracked the door open to negotiating a handful of drug prices about a year ago, and he wants to go further. He also wants to hike Medicare taxes for people making over $400,000 a year from the current 3.8% to 5%. He argues that these changes will save hundreds of billions of dollars and will make Medicare solvent for another 25 years or so. And this is an issue that is coming at Democrats and Republicans, whether they like it or not, because by some estimates, parts of Medicare are due to go insolvent. Basically, the coffers will run dry in an estimated 5 years, Weijia.
Well, Republicans insist that they do not plan to slash that program, but we will see where this all lands in the coming months. Nancy Cordes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For more on how lawmakers are responding to those Tucker Carlson January 6th tapes, Nicole Killian joins us now. Nicole, I know you just had an interview with Congressman Benny Thompson. What can you tell us about what he's saying, along with some others, about what we saw from Tucker Carlson's show last night?
Well, Weijia, as you know, Benny Thompson was the chairman of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. And, of course, one of the main arguments that Tucker Carlson made on his program last night is that all the work of the committee was more or less a lie in his view. And so I asked Thompson about that. He said he does not feel that the committee's work has been undermined, but he did express a lot of concern about Speaker McCarthy's decision to hand over this security footage, these 40,000 plus hours of tape, over to Tucker Carlson. Take a listen. Is there any way to put the genie back in the bottle now that this is out here? Or are there forever going to be these conflicting narratives about what happened January 6th?
Look, the speaker made a mistake. I think by giving one news media company sole right to this 44,000 hours of video without any standards or protocols in place is not what this country deserves.
Nicole, what is
and so, again, the chairman...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, the chairman obviously calling this a dereliction of duty on the part of Speaker McCarthy. And, in terms of the broader reaction that we have heard from lawmakers, I mean, look, it is split. There are many conservative Republicans who, even at the time of the January 6th riot and the days thereafter, argued that this was a tourist visit in their view. And some of them are still making that case. Congressman Joe Wilson going to the floor earlier today saying, thank you, Tucker Carlson, the truth has been revealed. But you also have Republicans like Mitch McConnell, who said that he is aligning himself with the view of the U.S. Capitol Police Chief, who called much of this footage that was released by Tucker Carlson misleading and offensive, and says that it doesn't provide the full context, especially to those who were here firsthand. Of course, many Democrats bashing the release of this material as well, in addition to Speaker McCarthy's decision to release the footage. And we're still waiting to hear from the Speaker in terms of how he's going to respond to all of this.
So he hasn't responded at all, Nicole, with lawmakers from both sides slamming his decision to turn this footage over. I mean, how long can he wait before he says something?
Well, he hasn't at this time. He says that he will talk to reporters at some point. We expect later this evening. So, of course, we'll continue to monitor that. But interestingly, I would note that particularly with respect to Mitch McConnell, he was asked multiple times today if he thought that Speaker McCarthy had made a mistake by giving these tapes out. And McConnell would not answer that question, again, just saying that he supports the view of the U.S. Capitol Police Chief in terms of how some of this video has been characterized, and understanding that those who were here, of course, experienced something much different than what Tucker Carlson portrayed.
And of course, it's not just Mitch McConnell, but several Republicans are delivering fiery responses to that footage. Let's take a listen.
I think particularly when you come into the chambers, when you start opening the members' desks, when you stand up in their balcony, to somehow put that in the same category as a permitted peaceful protest is just a lie.
Look, I assume at some point all that footage is going to be out there in circulation, so everybody can make their own determinations.
What do you think that happened that day?
Well, I mean, I think it was, it was an attack on the Capitol.
I think it's when you see police barricades breached, when you see police officers assaulted, all of that, or you had to be in close proximity to it. If you were just a tourist, you should have probably lined up at the visitor center.
Nicole, you're running after those lawmakers all the time, day to day. Can you tell me what it takes for a senator to call something BS in that way, to be so fired up about something?
Yeah, well, I think, again, for many of these lawmakers, they were here that day, and many of them had to be evacuated and taken to safe places. So they understand that this was an attack on our democracy. But again, going back to the Q&A that we had earlier with Mitch McConnell when he addressed reporters in his weekly press conference, I asked him, why is it that some in his party continue to downplay this attack and not even acknowledge that it was an insurrection, and why some of them have that view. And so that is a question that he did not answer. But clearly, this notion that it wasn't an attack, it was this peaceful demonstration. There are these two competing narratives, again, many which are being perpetrated by some members of Congress. And so that is why this has just become such a politicized issue here on the Capitol, and kind of inspiring these very fiery responses from lawmakers, because many of them are very fervent in their positions. And as much as some people, don't defend what happened that day and believe that this was an insurrection, you equally have, a small group of lawmakers who continues to insist that, again, this was, that continued to even defend some of these defendants who are in jail. So it continues to be a very explosive issue on Capitol Hill. And again, we'll have to see how the Speaker responds to this going forward.
Yes, we will be watching, Nicole. Thank you so much. House Republicans are calling on the Biden administration to release more information about its handling of documents marked classified found in November in a private office once used by President Biden. This story was first reported by CBS News. The request was made by House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer after the committee interviewed the top lawyer for the National Archives and Records Administration. Comer is asking why the archives drafted a response to the January report by CBS but never sent it to news organizations. The White House denies asking to withhold the statement. In a letter to the White House Chief of Staff, he noted they issued a statement in February 2022 after the Washington Post reported classified records had been found at former President Trump's Florida estate. Prior to a Justice Department inquiry, Comey set a March 21st deadline for the White House to comply with his request. Governor Ron DeSantis proudly said that Florida is the best state in the nation today. How the Florida legislature session that kicked off today could help bolster a DeSantis 2024 bid for the White House. You're streaming Red and Blue.
Hey there, welcome to The Uplift.
I thought she was a groom, and I stepped back and I went, oh,
You're the queen. She's going to be with me every instant that I'm alive.
I just wanted to see if you'd go to Disneyland with me today. I look over at him and he's smiling.
I'm going to remember that the rest of my life.
They told us when he was going to be born, he was only going to live for 30 minutes. It's really a miracle that he's with us today.
The Uplift. Stream now on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme, CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real, you'll have time to get prepared. Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
You ready? A generation of kids opens up on CBS Reports.
I just want to be like a regular kid.
Their world, their struggles, their voices.
What if I was white? A lot of people like to call names and make you feel ashamed for being proud of who you are.
Now streaming racism.
I feel like it's just a war zone between all different races.
Will this generation continue the problem?
The kids pushed them away and didn't want them to be there because of their race.
Or be the solution?
We just need to keep raising our voices. We're all human and we don't deserve that type of treatment just because of how we look.
Are the kids all right? Racism. Now streaming on the free CBS News app. An original documentary from CBS Reports. Tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely. As Taiwan faces threats and aggression.
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Stories that inform.
Or you can be really old at 60, and you can be really young at 85.
Inspire.
How do we unlock the power within ourselves to be who we want to be?
And brighten your day.
The best part of fame is making people feel good. Always send the people home happy.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme, CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real, you'll have time to get prepared. Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
We defied the experts. We bucked the elites. We ignored the chatter. We did it our way, the Florida way. And the result is that we are the #1 destination for our fellow Americans who are looking for a better life.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Weijia Jiang. That was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis earlier today delivering his State of the State address. This as the state kicks off its 60-day legislative session. Republicans hold a supermajority in both the state's House and Senate and are already working on a number of bills that could help DeSantis in a GOP primary for president. Among the bills that have already been filed, expanding gun rights, prohibiting state universities from diversity and inclusion statements, and a 6-week abortion ban. In today's speech, DeSantis seemed like he has his eyes set on the White House. Take a listen.
Don't worry about the chattering class. Ignore all the background noise. Keep the compass set to true north. We will stand strong. We will hold the line. We won't back down. And I can promise you this, you ain't seen nothing yet.
For more, let's bring in CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro and Florida-based Republican political consultant Justin Safie. Justin has served in the administrations of 3 Republican presidents. And is it Safie or Safie?
Safie.
Safie, that's what I thought. Good.
Yep.
All right, so we just heard from Governor DeSantis, and he said, you ain't seen nothing yet. But
Right.
aren't Floridians about to see their governor leave the governorship to run for president?
Who knows? Maybe that's what he was talking about. No, I think that the Florida, say it was the first day of the Florida legislative session. They go for 60 days. If Governor DeSantis does run for president, I would characterize this as the non-campaign campaign. He's going to be campaigning by being a governor of a state and getting certain things through the Florida legislature, and that'll be the record that he'll run on if he does choose to run for president.
And that agenda, Aaron, is so packed. I mean, everything from gun rights to, as we talked about, new ideas about diversity and inclusion. Can you talk about how this could impact his run for president? Because a lot of these big ticket items are exactly what Americans are talking about, regardless of what state they're in.
That's right. It's a lot of base issues that could potentially appear in his stump when he's going to Iowa, when he's going to New Hampshire and talking to these Republican voters. But just to kind of tick through what is in an agenda that will really be pushed by the Republican legislators, more funding to transport undocumented migrants, permitless concealed carry, a 6-week abortion ban, as you mentioned, lawsuit reform, limits or bans on transgender care, which is especially going to be an issue that has been talked about by Republicans, regardless on if they're in Florida or not. It was a prevalent topic at CPAC in Washington, D.C. last week, the big conservative gathering here. So it's for DeSantis, it's padding his resume, as well as kind of giving respect to the voters that reelected him in 2022 of November. He says it's a vindication, but also an opportunity to kind of expand on some of the ideas that, obviously, given his 19-point win, he believes has broad support among Florida voters.
On Face the Nation on Sunday, our colleague Robert Costa interviewed Larry Hogan, who confirmed he was not going to jump into the race, in part because he didn't want to crowd the field too much, because he really wanted to give someone other than Trump a chance to win. What do you think about that strategy, sort of laying low, and also, you know, could this help DeSantis when he does finally toss his hat?
Sure. Well, I think if you look at any of the polls, which are very early, it shows that the more people are in the race for the Republican nomination for president, the better Donald Trump does. So the fewer, when it's more of a head-to-head matchup, and especially if it's a head-to-head matchup between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, that gives Ron DeSantis a much better chance of beating Trump. So I think for those people like Governor Hogan, former Governor Hogan, who has made his support known that he's not a Trump fan, I think for those anti-Trump, never-Trump Republicans, that's the best strategy if they want someone else to be the nominee other than Donald Trump, is to narrow the field as quickly as possible.
And DeSantis is clearly focusing on issues. He's trying to, focus on his policy rather than the fact that he's not Trump, right? I mean, does he have to do that? Is it enough to just not be Trump to beat Trump?
Well, I think what Governor DeSantis is doing is he's really occupying the populist wing of the Republican Party by some of these social issues. He's been very vocal on issues like immigration, on the gender issues and others, abortion issues, gun issues, things like that, sending a message to Republican primary voters and Republican primary, if he decides to run for president, that he identifies with their issues and he's a champion for those issues. And I think that the actions of the Florida legislature will be, if he decides to run, something he can point to and say, I get things done, as opposed to other candidates that are simply talking about those things.
Right. And Aaron, he's going to take that message to Iowa on Friday on a book tour, but it's also, could be unofficial campaigning. So what should we expect when he heads up there?
That's right. He'll be appearing at 2 interview-style events with Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, who he has already kind of been in contact with. He hosted her at a retreat in Florida earlier this month. And he'll also be heading to Las Vegas, Nevada, another presidential primary state, the day after on Saturday. And this legislative session for him really kind of ties into this idea of a Florida blueprint. This is something he talks about. It's kind of in the branding of his book tour / quasi-campaign stops. And it's really just a way to kind of make the argument that making America Florida, taking what he's done in Florida and expanding that to the nation is part of DeSantis's pitch. And that's why this legislative session will be so important, because it adds to the bullet points of things that he can point to.
And this session is 60 days long. Justin, I know you're tired of answering this question, but is he going to announce right after it wraps up?
No one really knows. He said that he'll get through the legislative session, then he'll focus on that decision. But no one expects him to make a decision before the Florida legislature completes its work, and that'll be the first week of May.
Okay. Justin Safey and Aaron Navarro, thank you both so much for joining us. Jennifer McKellen will become the first Black woman to represent Virginia in Congress when she is sworn into the U.S. House on Tuesday evening. The former Democratic state senator will make Virginia the 23rd state to be represented by a Black woman in Congress. McClellan won a special election last month in the state's 4th district. The seat opened up after former Representative Donald McEachin passed away weeks after being reelected for his 4th term. A group of individual patients and doctors are suing Texas over abortion policies that they call dangerous. We'll hear why they say more clarification is needed on the state's health care laws. You're streaming Red and Blue.
Original documentary from CBS reports tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely.
As Taiwan faces threats and aggression,
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme,
states from the plains to the northeast are bracing for more than 2 feet of heavy snow.
Every second counts.
This is a monster winter storm.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
There's a wrinkle in the forecast, the accumulating ice.
You'll have time to get prepared.
Take precautions before you head out.
Feel the forecast on the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell.
Stories that inform.
You can be really old at 60, and you can be really young at 85.
Inspire.
How do we unlock the power within ourselves to be who we want to be?
And brighten your day.
The best part of fame is making people feel good. Always send the people home happy.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
The carnage in our nation's schools has become painfully repetitive.
Not one more child!
School shootings have parents fighting mad.
I promised my daughter I was going to fight. It's going to keep on happening.
And teachers taking lessons in how to fight back.
This is an exercise.
We approach it as it's you or them.
It shouldn't have to be your teacher's job to protect your life.
But will the battle over gun control,
People are afraid that they're going to lose their gun rights altogether.
be the hardest lesson of all?
The exercise, you're having to shoot at an adult. Are you prepared to have to kill one of your students?
Guns in the Classroom, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme,
States from the plains to the northeast are bracing for more than 2 feet of heavy snow.
every second counts.
This is a monster winter storm.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
There's a wrinkle in the forecast, the accumulating ice.
You'll have time to get prepared.
Take precautions before you head out.
Feel the forecast on the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Weijia Jiang. 5 women and 2 doctors are suing the state of Texas, claiming that recent abortion bans are harmful. Texas implemented a near total abortion ban known as SB 8 last September. That law bans the procedure after 6 weeks of pregnancy, with few medical exceptions. It also allows individuals to sue anyone who helps a Texas patient obtain an abortion. Plaintiffs and attorneys involved in the case challenging the policy spoke Tuesday about what they hope to accomplish.
Abortion is a crime in Texas, punishable by up to 99 years in prison. What the law is forcing physicians to do is weigh these very real threats of criminal prosecution against the health and well-being of their patients. We filed this lawsuit last night to stop the unnecessary pain, suffering, injury, and life-threatening complications caused by Texas's abortion ban.
The lawsuit marks the first time individual patients have sued a state over abortion laws. The plaintiffs are not seeking to block abortion bans in Texas. Rather, they are asking the court to clarify when a physician can make an emergency call to perform the procedure in order to save a patient from death or injury. That does it for today. You can stream Red and Blue Monday to Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You're streaming CBS News.